hereby sign the death warrant of an entire world and consign 1,000,000 souls to oblivion. I declare exterminatus. May imperial justice account in all balance. The Emperor protects.
All right. Hello and welcome everyone to a Saryn builds refresh. And given how the last Saryn build went, you can only expect that this is that new genocide type shit. And it very much is. We have a lot to talk about here. And it is absolutely and totally unnecessary. Not needed at all. You can just go watch my other Saryn video and it will just, that build's more than fine. You do not need to use any of the additional bullshit that we are applying to Saryn today, but you can, and it is funny. This basically takes away the one thing that would kind of be a problem eventually for Saryn, which is that eventually, whenever your stacks reset at high enough enemy armor, your one wouldn't, do enough. This removes that problem from the equation by making it so that her one takes the armor off all the enemies. And for that, I of course mean that we are using 2 of the new Emerald Archon shards, much like on the new Mesa build. So this is +2 stacks of corrosion on each. You do need 2 of them. Using Taos does not matter, so just any green shards will do. And that makes it so that we have 4 additional stacks of corrosion, which means we can strip all armor just by putting spores on enemies, because this will proc corrosive a bunch of times as it goes on, and remove all of the armor and then kill the poor fucks that are inflicted with spores. Alongside that, you can see that I have now maximized my Saryn in terms of adding the Taos to her. The original very funny plan was to have 4 Tau health and then 1 Tau armor so that we were above 2,000 health. And I am doing a little bit of a cheat to get over 2,000 health this time, but she's got room in the build for it. And the build looks like this. So this is the build. You'll immediately notice that I'm using Physique. Now, that is absolutely not optimal. Physique is not the best aura that you could be using here. It's very likely that it is brief respite, so that you can still use stretch and don't have to switch to an auger mod in order to get shield gating online. So if you want to, you can use brief respite. I will say I'm using Physique because I think it's funny that Saryn has more than 2,000 health. But brief respite is almost certainly going to result in more optimal play. Along with, you could go growing power, which is also probably in that same wheelhouse. Not corrosive projection, notably, and also not energy siphon, because this is a gloom build. But there's a lot of auras that you can kind of just option select on. Brief respite is probably the best, but it is by no means needed on this build. This build is not even using adaptation, and if you add adaptation to this, I don't know how far this build goes. This build has no trouble in terms of killing the enemies, just going to 10 to 15 waves into Steel Path Circuit. It just doesn't really care. The enemies just die, and they do not matter to you. So I don't know what you're going to get out of adaptation. You can laugh at the enemies more if you wanted to include it, but I haven't found the need for it. Notably, if you wanted to cut an umbral out of this, if you wanted to cut umbral fiber and just use a depolarity for adaptation instead, that's probably a good way to go. And we don't need all of this strength anyway. If I'm going to be completely honest, you could lose 22% strength off of an umbral intensify, and it probably wouldn't matter. This build is very, very strong. We are obviously maximizing our range pretty hard, not using everything. We are short on auger reach, but we really don't need it. We're just using overextended and stretch. You could, if you want more strength and less range, replace overextended, but like I said, the strength concerns are not many here. The thing that we're mainly trying to do is have enough strength so that whenever Molt Augmented is maxed out, we get that really good slow from Gloom, because we're starting at a 60% slow, and then plus the 60% strength for Molt Augmented bumps us up to a max slow there, which is of course very comfortable, but also really not necessary. Other things that are not necessary here. I'm still using Arcane Energize. This could be a lot of different things. I really have had no troubles with energy on this build, and that's just because Saryn is kind of just an efficient Warframe to begin with. We're at that just, 100% efficiency. But we only are, we're casting spores every once in a while. We're using our 3 and, maintaining gloom. And with that, it's, if you're in an environment where there's a lot of guys to kill, you're really not going to be spending that much energy killing all of them. So Energize is really not needed, but a lot of you are getting access to that with the new event, so it's a thing to consider. Other stuff in here, I don't know, you could like goof around with Pistolier. There's a bunch of like random nonsense that you could throw in here. I mean, hilariously, Reaper is a consideration on this build, I guess, just for the armor, if you really wanted to. There's a bunch of stuff that you could throw on here. Avenger's funny. Aegis makes you even more invincible if for some godforsaken reason you're having trouble surviving. But there's really, it could be whatever. You could throw Fury in here if you really wanted to, though I might not super suggest that with the melee weapon we're going to be showing today. There's a lot of options here, and Saryn is just really, really good, is really the over-under. So just roughly these stats are going to get you well and beyond pretty much anything. And, you don't even need the Molt Augmented, if I'm going to be totally honest. The 60% slow, most things don't get through that. Like, if something reaches you and you were trying to keep it away, that's very unusual. So, with that, we are pairing that with some nonsense. And obviously we have, like, the Miter and the Lotto Vandal, and these are just, like, fun incarnates. These are doing their normal things in this build. The Miter pops Nullifier bubbles. The Lotto Vandal I just find fun. There are better incarnates, but I really like it. And then the Dual Ichor are the incarnates that really get to come out and play with this build, because Saryn has a particular interaction with some new stuff that's happening with the Dual Ichors. So, the new Dual Ichor build is this. This is including Tennokai with Opportunities Reach, so we have very large Tennokai attacks, which are going to be very funny. We are also using the new Melee Influence Arcane. This is 20% chance on melee electricity status for elemental melee status effects to apply to enemies within 20 meters for 18 seconds, and it cannot refresh while active. So, that changes the Dual Ichor build quite considerably. I will note that even if you are not using Saryn, I think that this is the build you want to go with on this weapon, but Saryn makes it stupid. And the basic gist here is that we want viral still, but also we are using electricity instead of heat. So we're weighting towards electricity so we can make sure that we proc this arcane. So we've got the 90 and also the 60-60 stat in here. If you don't have this 60-60, it's not a huge deal. You could just use the Shocking Touch. And then, just like the Weeping Wounds is going to give you pretty much all the status you're going to want anyway. If you don't want to use one of the Dexterity Arcanes for combo duration, you could just as easily put like Drifting Contact here, and that's going to be just fine. Because I know a lot of people just don't have access to Voltaic Strike because you just haven't picked it up from Borrow or whatnot. Also, in terms of all of the Prime mods that are here, regular Pressure Point is fine, regular Reach is fine, and instead of Primed Fury, you would just go with the usual replacement for that, which is Quickening, which honestly, Quickening's plus combo count chance is like kind of a side grade to Primed Fury here. So if you don't have this, it's really not a big deal. Also, obviously, this is not actually a 4-forma build. You can see I have some extra capacity left over, and you can do this much cheaper without the Prime mods. So yeah, with all that, also it is worth noting the Miter is the one that has the Dexterity Arcane in this case. What we're doing here is we are using the new status spreading stuff with Influence, and we are utilizing that with Toxic Lash. So Toxic Lash makes it so every single one of our melee strikes procs Toxin. The Dual Ichor with Influence is making it so that not only are all of our viral procs propagating to all enemies in 20 meters, and also all of our electric procs are propagating to all enemies within 20 meters. Also, all of our toxin procs are propagating to all enemies within 20 meters, and that's each hit for 18 seconds. So, swinging these things around basically puts hundreds of all of those elements on everybody. And, due to the Dual Ichor's unique transformation, which is kills create a toxin damage field, that is a melee attack, as it comes from a melee weapon. Which means, yes, it does inflict those statuses, and yes, it does continue to proc melee influence and kill everybody. So what this essentially means is that dual Ichors plus Saryn means you are getting toxic fields that when the enemies pop from dying due to them having spores removing all of their armor and then being toxic lashed through the Ichor wave with influence, everyone dies. All of them die. You hit one guy and everyone dies. With seemingly no limits on that other than range, because it is only a 20-meter spread between enemies. And then, of course, the limits of what enemies have spawned in yet. So that's pretty much what we're working with here. In terms of companions, I've just slapped on Death Cube. He's got energy economy stuff going on. There's a ton of companions that work here. The only thing that's important to note that you should not bring on Saryn is a Panzer. This conflicts with Spores because they're the same thing. And those abilities conflict. So don't bring a Panzer if you're Saryn, but otherwise really bring whatever you want. You could bring in a Darza, a Smida, a Sahasa if you wanted to, Helios. Really doesn't super matter. And that's going to pretty much just all come out great. But yeah, let's show what this does exactly, because it looks pretty dumb. These are the 20 Steel Path Corrupted Heavy Gunners as usual. We will throw on our Gloom. And this is what we're looking at here. This is what we're working with here. Yeah, so it's pretty much going to do that to everything that exists. And for those of you that did not see my last video on Saryn, the other important factor of this build is the way that our 1 interacts with Gloom. So we have, of course, you can see that like 1977 health up there. And basically, Gloom gives us lifesteal, which works with our 1. Because our 1 is usually on every single enemy in sight, and they are slowly or quickly dying from it, all of that damage dealt means it's healing us pretty much 100% of the time. And while that is happening, if an enemy is shooting at us, if they do not deal our entire health pool in one shot, we will simply be full health again. So unless something can one-shot us, we literally cannot die as long as our spores are active. In addition to the amount of damage that you just saw me do. So yeah, this is going to look really stupid. Let's get into Steel Path. All right. Let's, I'm actually not 100% certain that you could qualify this as fighting what we're about to do to these enemies, but we're gonna, for the sake of it, we're gonna call it that. We're gonna say that this qualifies as fighting these enemies in as much as that can really be true. Yeah, so you can see they're just all, like, you know, very quickly armorless. We have Tennokai. That transforms our weapon for free. That's most of the reason why we're even bothering to put Tennokai on here, is because it just lets us keep combo and still transform our Incarnon. And yeah. Things are happening. Things are happening in that direction, and also that direction. Yeah. I think all of the explanation I gave of what's occurring here in the simulacrum is pretty much exactly what's up. There's no real further magic to this. It's just if I hit them and melee influence is active, it's going to be a very bad time for all of the enemies involved. And the enemies involved are, like, nearly global in terms of that. As you can clearly see. So, with what we're doing here, it is worth noting that the basic thing that you want to do as Saryn is the thing that I've called it in the past is gardening, and it is still gardening, but this is more of an industrial gardening. This is more of like a this is the kind of farming that hurts the environment. Like this is industrious capitalist gardening. Like we are clearly doing we're doing environmental harm with haste at quick speeds with what we're doing here. So you're basically just trying to find where you can stand that will spawn the most guys. Like, that's, I know that sounds like stupid. Like, that's not really a consideration that we usually run through in Warframe, but I do really, like, look at this. Look at all of this. I haven't even been in this hallway yet. I really do mean you are looking for a zone that will spawn the most dudes. And you can hit your 4. I shouldn't. Like, there's not even a good reason for me to have done that. It's just disgusting. Yeah. Enemies with Overguard, like, they'll be alive until you see them. And you can, give them a little tippy-tappy. They're actually just good for, like, recharging influence, if I'm going to be super honest. Like, they're actually just kind of nice for re-procking your influence, whenever that can just, go out to all the enemies and further genocide them. Yeah. Yeah. Saryn was already really good. Just to, like, I mean, just stating facts we all already know. Saryn was already really good. And this new melee stuff, allowing the dual Ichor to be used in this way, plus what she's doing now with her 1 being able to strip armor, is super gross. It's super gross. This is well and true. I have not been into this area yet. Over here, like, do you see all of the thing? This is loot on the ground. It's transforming my Ichors again. And if you think this Acolyte is going to fare much better than these enemies, you got another thing coming. The Acolyte also will not enjoy this. Even with their status resistance, they are going to have a very bad time. Like, it's not the fastest Acolyte kill in the world, but, like, it certainly isn't slow. I only have 3 infected with my 1. Those enemies just died because I'm using my 3. Yeah, it's, I mean, look at, I walked into this room and, like, look at how populous it is with, the air support is 80 meters away. I have not entered that area yet. Enemies have spawned there and then ceased to be. So it's pretty good. Hey, it's pretty good. I think this build's pretty good. Also, I have not checked yet, but I suspect the kill rate is as good here as it has been, which it has been stupid. Yeah, I'm at 700 kills. It hasn't been 5 minutes yet. My general bar, or if something is, like, good in this mission, is 100 kills a minute. And I am not even, like, trying to, like, go hard and, like, get the most kills I can. For most Warframes, I have to hunt. I'll need to, like, oh yeah, I have to be trying to get those kills. Saryn does not have to be trying to get those kills. The enemies spawning in is enough for me to get the kills that I desire. That is all that I need, is that they simply exist. Like, I could use my 4 a little more if I want the enemies to die where they spawned in. And that's pretty much the gist of how that's going. And, like, I do eventually, making sure I'm re-procking influence every once in a while is, like, important to do for keeping my kill rate up there. That is, of course, a wanted thing for me to participate in. It's making sure that my 1, because I have a single infected enemy right now because it killed everyone. But making sure that is still going on and, like, spreading, keeping my 3 up, being a responsible, renewable gardening farmer. But yeah, I mean, like, once your 1 is stacked up to a certain degree, seeing non-Eximus enemies becomes considerably more rare. Like, until your, like, 1 starts to die out because it's getting too strong, which you will do. If you use your 4 too much, it's very easy to make it so that your 1 is not infecting very many enemies, because if your 1 is a touch of death, then you don't get much opportunity to hit the enemies with your 4 and then have them, like, be a part of the problem. You know what I mean? Yeah, like, I mean, at this point, I should probably really just, like, go around and make sure I'm collecting all of the loot. I'm not actually getting to where most of the enemies are dying. You can see on my map here, like, these are just mods and, air support, and this whole hallway here has been... I'm not even keeping my 3 up. It's you know, we're just doing a whole... Yeah, these enemies are their own thing. I should probably go collect the other half of the map's loot that I haven't not even stepped foot on. That's probably... You know, it's a thing I should do, theoretically. Not a thing I need to do. And, like, you know, by this point, more enemies have spawned in over here, which is fun. For me, not them. They hate this. Yeah, and, like... I mean, just, like, the proof is in, like, just what I'm doing. Like, we can all see that this is crazy. Acolyte spawned in. Acolyte's dead. There they go. Yeah, even the Dual Licker's heavy attacks, which I'm not spec'd into, they're just strong enough. We can just dump these enemies into the trash. And, like, you can see, like, I'm not, like, trying to make it so, like, I don't get shot or anything. Like, between Death Cube turning my shields back on and, like, the slow and everything else, like... I mean, some people like to put Roar on Saryn, and I don't know about you, but I don't see what the point of that would be exactly. Like, if anything, Roar would make it so that it's harder for me to garden. Because it would just make all these enemies die so fast that it would just, you know... I'd have to run further to get to new guys to host my one. Yeah, the Xmas really are more of a buff than they are, like, an obstacle. Because usually by the time you see an Xmas, if you've been maintaining your one really much at all, by the time you see them, they're pretty much armorless. Which is great for you, obviously. Because, you know, armorless Xmas, you're hitting them with these viral toxin electricity blades, and like yeah, I mean, and what do you want? But yeah, this is new Saryn. This is Saryn utilizing the Ickers. I do think that she is the best user of them. Can't imagine what a better user of them would be up to. Because this is just kind of dumb. We are at 1,400 kills. It has not been 10 minutes yet. I think I got to 1,700 kills in 10 on one run. But again, you know, that would be... If I was optimizing the tile I was standing in a little more, we could get there. Probably doable on this map. There's certain areas that kind of have like a spawn overlap with some of my range here that I've noticed, but I haven't really been like doubling down on that or anything at all. And like a tile like this is like actively kind of bad for me, because they'll spawn pretty far away, but it's not like it's going to be a problem. Like, I mean, I'm just doing Parazon finishers for a laugh. Yeah, it's 1,500 kills in 10 minutes. Outrageous. Like, I'm in, you know, effectively no danger here. Just because, like, Gloom Saryn is so survivable. Just due to most enemies being literally incapable of killing me at this level. If you do take this into circuit, you will be killable. But if you're a little careful, that pretty much goes away too. Because it's really only the Thrax that are going to be a threat to you there. Especially with all the buffs you get from the circuit. But yeah, that's what's going on with Saryn. It's, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Between her and Mesa, we're on that, we're on that new shit with this. Yeah. All right. Whispers in the Walls has arrived, which means many new guides are on the horizon. And thank you very much to all of my patrons for the support, especially $10 patrons: Alex Parnham, Angel SBM, Arbiter Daydream, Newvin, Automatic, Brandon Coggin, Brutus Salazar, Kano Lathra, Dylan Dworsky, Thrain, Mafan, James Harsthorn, JC4 Science, John Lobdell, Joshua Adams, Lord Acorn, Lou Zand, Mikkelkel, Minty Ginja, Michta, Nerve, Remoxidate, Sharp, Camerolic Wastelander, The Coupon of Death, Tomeworm, Victor Palmer, Waifu Wars, and Wildad1. And also, of course, thank you very much to all of my $5 patrons as well. It is much appreciated. Lots of new guides coming with Whispers in the Walls, and also they changed new player progression again, so I need to redo the CPR that did just release, but that shouldn't take too much time, and we should have an updated new player guide for the entire chunk that's already out very, very soon. They did improve it, though, so good stuff.